And without any further ado, so once again, everybody, welcome to our Toastmasters breakout session for the treasurer. And we're going to be learning about the treasurer here. If you can mute your lines, we're going to start our session here in a minute. And at the end, we will have questions. And if you want to put your questions in the chat, then we'll have about 10 or 15 minutes at the end to do the chat and the survey. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Bruce Williamson. He's a DTM. Bruce has been a Toastmaster for 18 years and has earned his DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster, in 2016. He is currently a member of 3 clubs in the upstate of South Carolina and is an area director this year. He originally joined Toastmasters to help curb the fear of public speaking. Bruce thought at the time he would be in Toastmasters for only 6 months. How many of us thought maybe the same thing? But we're glad that he stayed because now he says Toastmasters is in his blood. Bruce has been a club treasurer several times and has also been the district treasurer, which is the district finance manager for Toastmaster year 2013 to 2014. Please join me in welcoming Bruce Williamson.
Thank you very much, Becky. That was you're a great facilitator, and you handled the housekeeping rules as I would hope you would have. If not, I was going to add to them. But I just want to add, I'm glad you're here for the treasurer role. That's obviously very important for the club and for you as being the treasurer, if you are such as the treasurer for your club. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share a slide presentation with you. And then after that slide presentation, I want to talk to you about, if you are a treasurer, what you have remaining in your term between now and June 30th on what are your needs and what you need to do to fulfill your obligation as treasurer. Treasurer, again, club officer training. Let me see if I can advance it. Okay, I've got it now. The agenda for this slide presentation is we're going to talk about the role of treasurer, responsibilities as a treasurer, and the resources that you have available to you. The treasurer role, in my opinion, is you are the club's accountant. You manage the club's bank account, write checks approved by the executive committee. The executive committee, of course, are the officers in your club that you're treasurer for. Deposit membership dues and pay the dues. That's most important. I'm going to talk later about something that you have to really be very aware of and careful and make sure that you get them in on a timely manner. You're also in charge of submitting membership dues to World Headquarters, accompanied by the name of the renewing member or the new member, filing necessary tax documents if you have some, and keeping timely, accurate, and up-to-date financial records for the club. And you'll find that that's very important. What helps you as treasurer in keeping up with this, all right, the responsibilities that you have as treasurer before the club meeting, and of course we're going to talk about during the club meeting and after. So next, preparing a financial report. If you had a good prior treasurer, that treasurer, male or female, would have put you in good shape. They should have had all the records up to date. The checkbook should have been balanced. You should know what the balance is in the account, and you should, from that, then be able to prepare a financial report, which is what you need to do and share with the executive committee. The president, for one, will need to know where you stand. Obviously, during the club meeting, you have a role to collect the dues. Dues are important, and we need to make sure that they're collected and paid on a timely basis. And you also need to report to the president and the executive committee where you stand as far as the financial affairs are concerned. Preparing a budget. That's very important, but what you need to know is what you're going to be spending money on. And do you have enough money in the account to pay for those items that need to be paid? So with a meeting with the executive committee, you'll find out and you'll ask the president and the other members what needs to be spent, what do we need to pay for? So that budget is important. Once you have that information, then you can prepare a budget and share that with the executive committee and proceed throughout the year to try and stay within the budget. Sometimes that's hard, but sometimes it's easy because you don't have any money. So many times the club will, in addition to sending out dues information of the $45, which is currently the amount that we owe Toastmasters International, but sometimes many clubs will have additional monies to help offset those items that you want to pay for throughout the year. So I would say that it's good for you to talk with the president and the executive committee to find out where those items are and how much you feel, and you need to get approval from the executive committee as to how much to charge each member for each dues period. And again, the next item on this, outside of clubs, provide a bank with a bank signatory card. I don't know about you, but when I was club treasurer, the bank that we had our account with, sometimes they're very picky and peculiar as to what they want in changing from one treasurer to another. I would suggest that you, at the beginning of the year, which you have already done, but one thing to pass on to your successor is to make sure that somebody contacts the bank to find out what they need to change from one treasurer to another. The particular club that I was in when I was club treasurer said that they had to have a letterhead type letter from the president stating that the old treasurer is going out and the new treasurer is coming in. And then also it was important and mandatory that the old and the new treasurer be there to go through the process of making that change. So that might be a little bit overkill, but if that's what the bank wants, then that's what you need to satisfy them in order to make sure that you have those signatory cards on file. And one important item on that is to make sure you have someone more than just yourself as a treasurer to have them have the ability to write a check, because we've heard instances where people have died. That's the ultimate problem. And they've died and they didn't have someone else on the card to be able to sign. So there was more formality and legalities they had to go through in order to rectify the situation. Again, collecting and paying dues is important, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Submitting new membership applications is important, and then issue checks for club expenses and keep financial records. Outside the club, what are your responsibilities? Your responsibilities are to present the financial reports. The club needs to know what kind of standing you are in and where changes need to be made. If you don't have enough money in the budget, then you're going to have some type of a special train to bring more money in to help satisfy those items that you want to pay for. So again, it would take executive committee and the club membership to vote on adding more monies into the coffers. Submit club accounts for audit. Sometimes many clubs don't have an audit, but it's important that you would have an audit. You want to find out if you're doing the right thing. So get your affairs together and try and get somebody, even if outside the club, some other club treasurer maybe, to be an auditor to see if you're doing the right thing. Because we want to make sure that we're attentive to the needs of the club and making sure that we're doing the right things as a treasurer. It's important to attend executive committee meetings to find out where you're going and where you need to go and what are items of importance as far as the executive committee is concerned and what you need to do financially to help support. You're there to help support the club and the executive committee, the president, and all the other officers. Again, each month, I have to say that you need to make sure that you reconcile the deposits, expenditures, and the cash on hand. Keep your records up to date so that when the end of the year gets there and you bring in a new treasurer, that they will be fully aware of the good records that you've kept, and they can move forward very easily. Outside the club, ensure that the club meets government tax regulations. I don't know that's come up very often as far as getting any type of government tax information required, because mainly Toastmasters International will handle that for you, and you don't have to worry about those tax regulations. They've already taken care of that for you, because I think they've received problems from club treasurers saying, what do I do with this? So they decided to take care of that for you as the governing body, Toastmasters International. If there's any correspondence that you receive in the club president or whoever receives the correspondence should pass that on to you, since you are you're the club accountant. So those are important things for you to look at and find out what they're all about and file them wherever you need to, or do something on that financial correspondence that you get. And then again, I see that's one thing. If there was a grammarian here, I use again too many times. So I will try and eliminate that again word as much as I can. You need to prepare for the audit committee so that they have all the information that they need. The executive committee, yes, Becky, very good. Prepare the budget. The budget, again, the budget will be that vehicle used to determine where you're going throughout the Toastmaster year. Present those financial reports to the president and all the other executive members so that they too can know what's up. Submit club accounts for audit. Another very important item. You want to be in line and in tune with what should be going on as a club treasurer. Work with the executive committee on the club success plan. The club needs to be successful, and you are a part of that success program. So you need to follow that and work with the executive committee to make sure that you are a successful club. How to fulfill the treasurer responsibilities. This is the how, the when, the who, and the what. How will you fulfill this responsibility? I think what helps is attending TLIs and learning what you're supposed to be doing. You have the prior treasurer there to help you, and anyone else that may help you in fulfilling this responsibility as a treasurer. I would have to say that being the club treasurer was one heck of a lot easier than being the district treasurer. It's much easier to be that club treasurer, who doesn't write very many checks, at least in my experience. I didn't have to write very many checks. But as the district treasurer, that completely changed for me. It opened my eyes. When will each action be completed? Well, I would say to you that all the actions should be completed as quickly and as efficiently as you can. It's very important that you do complete all of your responsibilities in a very timely manner. Who is available to help you? I stated earlier, the prior treasurer, if he or she is still in the club. Your executive committee can help you. You can reach out to your area director, and the area director can help you, at least get you to the right person that will help you in completing those tasks. What materials and resources can you use? That's always important too. Your resources are so important in case you are not sure what you need to do. You can rely on these resources, and you can ask others that might help you. Getting started. Attend district-sponsored club officer training program. You can check that off on your list because you're here today. Read materials. Read all you can on what is a successful club treasurer. Meet with the outgoing executive committee. This will give you a feel for where the club has been, and will give you an idea of where you need to go and what needs to be done. It's always better to find out where you're at and try and improve to be a better club and a better treasurer. Meet with that outgoing treasurer. That's so very important. If you don't do that, then you're really not starting off on the right foot. That treasurer should be able to lead you in the right direction and tell you what you need to do. Again, one of your better resources is the outgoing treasurer. Meet with the current executive committee. Let them know this is where the club was, this is where we need to be, and get a buy-in from them as to where you should be going, where the club should be going from a financial standpoint. Review policies and protocol. I think some of that comes naturally. If you're doing your job properly, you won't have to worry about possibly breaking policies or breaking protocol. Just do what you feel is right. If it's wrong, I'm sure that club president or that executive committee will help you determine that you're not going in the right direction. That's what help is all about. Prepare the budget. That, again, as I've stated before, a budget is for a club accountant. It's very important to know where you're planning on spending your money and what needs to be done. Review records, financial reports, and audit committee's report. If you have an audit and you receive the report from the audit and you do nothing about it, then why even have an audit? The audit is your friend. The audit is there to help you, either give you that pat on the back that you've done a good job, or direct you in the way you need to go to make it a better year as a treasurer. Don't forget, audits are important. And try and get that to happen for each club year as a club treasurer. It gives you that justification knowing that you've done the right job. Provide a bank with a signatory card. That, as I stated earlier, is important, especially if you're incapacitated for any reason. Someone else can step in and sign those checks, and the bank will be on your side in knowing that you have got a signatory card for someone else. Create a record-keeping system if needed. I think we can eliminate those two words, if needed, because I really feel a record-keeping system is so very important as the club treasurer, especially when that transition time comes and you have to transition from you being the treasurer to your successor. So a record-keeping system, keep up with it monthly. Many times you'll get behind, you get busy, time management isn't always on your side, but try and reconcile that checking account statement each and every month when you get it. Keep it up to date so that you don't have to scramble at the end of the year getting everything in order for that new incoming treasurer. These are all your additional resources that you have available for you. The Distinguished Club Program and Success Plan. If the club wants to be successful and wants to be designated as a distinguished club, whether it be distinguished, select, or president's select, you need to make sure that your finances are in order, that you can help support the executive committee to try and be a better club and to be a successful club. Success Communication Series and Successful Leadership Series. If you don't know anything about them, this would be a good time to click on that success programs that's shown on the screen. Submitting club dues. This is what I want to spend a little bit of time on. Becky and I talked the other night about this, and she brought it to my attention. I thank you, Becky, for that. We are coming upon a time for our contest. I know for a fact that my particular division wants to have their division contest on April the 2nd. 2 days into the new time frame when dues are due. I would very much strongly recommend that you get on top of sending out dues notices to everyone in your club, whether it be through the Toast, I can't remember, Toast Host, I can't remember what that's called, but whatever that's called, that's what I used. I was able to post Toast Host or something to that effect. I was able to use that to send out dues. If not, if you have a spreadsheet on who all your members are, just make sure that you send them a notice at least a month before the dues are due. So I would say near the end of February, send them out and follow up. Make sure that they know that the dues are due. You need to make sure that those contestants and those judges are able to do what they want to do, to either to speak or to be a judge. You have to be a member in good standing, and the club has to be a club in good standing. In order for that club to be in good standing, there has to be a minimum of 8 members renewed in order for that club to be a club in good standing. If I know that COVID has drastically reduced the number of members in the club, sometimes 8 is maybe all that you have, or maybe even less than that. My suggestion would be that if you're uncertain as to whether or not the club would be successful, reach out to your club president, reach out to your area director, and tell them your situation, and maybe they can help you in overcoming that problem of not having 8 renewed members. But that is so very, I can't stress enough the importance of getting those dues in no later than March 31st, so that your club and those clubs and those speakers and judges can do their job. How very embarrassing it would be to say, well, we could have spoken or we could have been a judge had the treasurer turned in their dues on time. So let's not overlook that. Let's make sure that those dues are due and that they're paid to Toastmasters International in a timely fashion. Use of Toastmaster material is just an overall checklist on the lists and, again, additional resources that you can use as a club treasurer. Wow. Let me just now go over the things that you need to do for the rest of this Toastmaster year between now and June 30th, if you are, in fact, the treasurer. It is now January 15th. The next thing is coming again is the club contests. What I just talked about was making sure that those dues are turned in a timely fashion. Make sure that you properly prepare time-wise, sending out dues notices to your members. Make sure that you're not embarrassed by not having the club be a successful club or a club that's in good standing with Toastmasters International. Make sure that those dues are paid. So it's dues, it's the club contests, and then you also, one important thing that you have to do is find your successor. You want to be with that successor as early in June, or even sooner possibly, to be with them, to coach them, guide them, to mentor them, so that they may have a good Toastmaster year as the club treasurer. I think that one thing that Toastmasters has done away with, each club officer, this kind of gets away from treasurer, but each club officer should have the responsibility of saying hello, to greeting the new members, the guests that come into the club. How very discouraging it is for a visitor to the club to not be acknowledged by all the club officers. One of your main goals, especially during COVID times, you want to make sure that you keep your membership up. You want to add more members. So as a treasurer, it is your responsibility as being a part of the executive committee to greet those visitors, to talk with them, help them in any way. Maybe not put pressure on them, but let them know that you care as a treasurer, as a club officer. So that is very important. That replacement, hopefully you'll be with them long enough to show them the ropes, show them, here are my financial records that are up to date. Here are my records that you will take over. And go with them. Call that bank that has your checking account. Ask them what they require. Maybe their requirements have changed, but make sure that you let that new treasurer know that you comply with whatever that bank has a bank or credit union, that they have everything that they need to change, to make that smooth transition from you being the treasurer to the new treasurer. If you follow all the guidelines that we need to follow as a treasurer, being the club accountant, making sure that you have everything done on time, making sure that you get the dues statements out, making sure that you get the dues paid, then you won't have anything to worry about. I think that I just did see a chat in here from Chuck Baker. How much money should be in your club bank account for your club? That's a good question, Chuck. For all of you, please send your questions just to Becky only, but Chuck, you're exactly right. How much do you need? And that's where the meeting with the executive committee comes in handy at the beginning of the year. What do you want to spend? Make that budget reflect the monies that you want to pay throughout the year so that you have enough money. So you have enough money in that account to pay for them, pay for those items. I think maybe that answers your question, Chuck, but we're going to get into the question and answer section here real soon. I can't think of anything else that I want to tell you other than make sure that you do everything in a timely manner, that you meet with the executive committee, that you prepare all the reports, that you share with the executive committee the financial standing. Nothing worse than having an item that needs to be paid and you don't have enough money. So always, as Toastmasters, communications is very important. Make sure that they are aware of what needs to happen or what hasn't happened. Becky, I believe that's all that I have right now. If we want to go into the question and answer session, that would be fine. I'll turn it over to you, and I will. Do I need to set a timer for you?
Nope. Right now we're at 34 minutes, and I think we have about an hour on the clock. I know the treasurer. Thank you for your presentation, Bruce. I've really learned a lot. However, I think that as opposed to some of the other things, we don't have a lot of big, sexy material or a lot of content. So maybe we can use this more as a discussion forum. And then I'll also share the link with you in the presentation box. So I do, since we have one more question here that was presented to us. Chuck is asking, is Toastmasters International says you should have a maximum amount in your checking account? Are you aware of this, Bruce? And do you know what it is?
Well, thank you for that question, Chuck. That is a good question. I am aware of it, but I don't know what that maximum amount is. I think Chuck is in one of my clubs, Palmetto Toastmasters, and he has been club treasurer before, and I've been club treasurer before, and that subject has come up. Is there a maximum amount? I would have to get back with you, Chuck. I would have to look into Toastmasters International. If nothing else, call them and find out, because I don't think there's anywhere in their website where it specifically says that you can only have a certain amount. But I've heard from other people saying that, yeah, there is a certain upper limit to have. But Chuck, I will definitely reference that. I will make a note of it, because if I don't, I'll forget.
I've already checked on that, Bruce.
Have you?
Oh.
What's the answer?
$150.
Thank you.
$150?
Yes, and unless you have something that's outstanding, you look at it and say, how much money? I mean, some clubs have $300, $600, $700, but they're not doing anything with it, and they continue to collect dues. Why are you collecting dues if you already have the money in there in order to be able to pay all dues? And so the objective is to be able to stay between 100 and 150 for an entire year. If you have more than that, you need to be able to eliminate it, because as you get higher, it becomes, there's taxes that are involved with it. The IRS gets involved, and you think, wait a minute, I want to make sure I have a limited amount and not going over that 5,000 or 10,000 mark that all of a sudden, I have feedback on there somewhere, I don't know where it is. But you look at it and you say, you need to make sure that you don't have too much, and make sure the clubs aren't having too much.
That's exactly right, Chuck. I remember, Chuck, in our Palmetto Toastmasters Club, we were probably at or above that threshold. I know we were above that threshold, and we decided to eliminate we were, I think, adding $5. We instead of the 45 that goes to Toastmasters International. Whatever the amount was that Toastmasters International said that we had to pay for dues, we added $5 more. We just kept building and building and building, and we weren't spending our money on anything. And again, that 150 I think is a good threshold to have. Obviously, you need money in there to buy ribbons, to buy ballots if you so use the ballots from Toastmasters International, maybe a lectern or whatever. You just need to make sure that you have enough of it. That's why the importance of that budget is so important. It's so important to attend those executive committee meetings, to know the pulse of the club as to where they want to go, so that you can appropriately budget for those items that you're going to spend during that Toastmaster year. So thank you, Chuck, for that. I learned that $150 is your top limit. You get there, you get above there, it's time to shut it off and let your executive committee, communication again, let your executive committee know that, hey, we're at the 150 threshold mark, or we're beyond it. We need to cut off the adding of additional monies. In fact, in Palmetto Toastmasters that I was just talking about, that Chuck and I are in, we probably cut that off a couple of years ago. And in fact, I know we did, because we had a member that was Geneva Anderson. I don't know if any of you know or knew Geneva Anderson, but she's passed away, but she was an advocate of making sure that we add additional monies to the coffers. But we got, I know when I was treasurer, we got up to around $250. And I know that our current treasurer is monitoring that. I think we're getting closer maybe to 150, but many times the club doesn't spend the money. They don't need it, especially under Zoom conditions. Your ballots are taken care of through the chat. And you don't need a lectern, because your laptop or your tablet is your lectern. But eventually, I'm hoping that we'll get back to the normal, whatever that is. I'm not sure what that is anymore. I'm hoping we'll get back to being able to meet in person. That's why Toastmasters is struggling, because people don't want to do a Zoom meeting. They want to meet in person.
Yes.
But again, thank you, Chuck, for that information. $150. Is there anything else?
Can I
Any other
ask,
questions, Becky?
I
can I
think,
make a comment about, we're talking $140, $150 just to be able to finance a Zoom meeting. How does that tie into a $150 balance in your checking account? I mean, it's.
Well, thank you for that. I think maybe what should have happened a while back, the district was, last year, I think it was offering the ability to pay for a Zoom contract, so that the club could get reimbursed. So what you might want to do is check with your area director and ask them if there's any way that the district can pay for that Zoom meeting, because that is expensive, and I know it's needed, but I know that the district was offering to reimburse each club for their Zoom account. So I hope that answers your question. Again,
Another problem we have with, since Zoom meetings, is dues collection. Fortunately, not collecting the dues, but now is 75–80% of our members pay their international dues directly. Because we don't meet in person, they can't bring a check or cash to the treasurer. So they do that part in person. And then the treasurer has to collect our club dues individually from them. And if they have not paid their club dues by the time, say, April 1st, they're still eligible by TI standards. They're able to compete, but that doesn't help us collect our club dues, which are minimal.
I understand what you're saying. I think what you have to do then as a treasurer, it makes the waters are a little more muddied because of this situation, but you're going to have to go onto your Toastmasters website and find out, since you are a club officer, you have the ability to see who has paid and who has not paid
Right.
their club dues. So keep on top of that. Keep a spreadsheet. I hope that answered or helps you understand what maybe you need to do. It's a little more involved, but at least you know who has and who has not paid their club dues.
But,
Chuck?
okay,
No,
but,
too
but,
late, too late,
but,
too late, too late, too late.
is it too late?
What do you want to say?
I was
Yeah,
gonna-
well, Sylvia and Barry, do you want to finish you have another question? And then I have Chuck and I think
Yeah,
Philip Fuller has a question. So if you want to finish yours and then we can go on to the other questions.
yeah, what it amounts to is they will pay the dues and this kind of thing. So of course, it doesn't matter that I can go in and check to make sure, but then I have like $5 that I have to collect. So they have to write a check or in the mail to me. And then all of a sudden, if they don't get the check to me in time, then I'm saying maybe I have to pay for that until they get the money.
I understand what you're saying. As long as you've got enough money in the account to pay Toastmasters International to keep that club in good standing, that's a good thing. But you need to be on top of the members saying, hey, you've already paid your Toastmasters International dues, but you still owe us the $5 for the club. Just need to do it in a nice way. But again, communication.
They can still compete if they haven't paid the club dues. Is that correct?
As long as the Toastmasters International has received 8 member payments,
Right.
then
Okay,
there'll still be a club in good standing. The $5 is strictly for your own club. Has nothing to do with Toastmasters International. It's to help you pay for the budgeted items that you've budgeted for at the beginning of the year. But that $5 is important. If you don't get that $5 from those members, then
Right.
you're not going to be able to possibly meet the needs of what was already set up in the budget. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Becky, next. I want
Chuck? Yep, I
Becky's
said
the
I've
one
got
that
Chuck.
really she's the moderator, so
Yeah, Chuck,
we're gonna go through
Philip, and then Maria. We'll go in
Okay.
that order. And then if we have
Okay.
more questions, and I'll put the green light up at 50 minutes. I've already shared the link in the chat, and I'll do 50, 55, and then 60 will be the red. So
Yeah,
that you
we just
guys
need,
will know what my timer is.
yeah, we just need to have time at the end so that they can do
Oh,
their
yeah, we still
survey.
have about 15 minutes. So
Okay, thank you.
Sylvia and Barry, I said 150 where they look at it, but that's after you've already budgeted for the year. So for an example, if you know you have a Zoom account you need or something like that, should be taken out and said, okay, now I need to make sure I have between $100 and $150. It's that window. But if all of a sudden you have other charges on the outside, whatever, say if you have an open house, and you want to spend $100 for that.
Right.
Well, budget that so that you know that you at the end of the year, then at the end of the 6 months, you have X amount of money left. You don't just go to 150 and then stop because obviously you may run out of money if you want to have an open house. But that's what I'm talking about is TI is asking to say, keep it limited to between 100 and 150 after you've already budgeted.
Okay. Thank you much.
thanks.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thanks, Becky. Thank you.
I always like using all the resources that you have available, and Chuck, that was a great resource. Thank you for answering that and adding to that. Becky?
And Philip, you've had your hand up for a long time, but it also looks like you're driving the car. Did you have a question for us? Or you must be a passenger in the car. Do you have a question for us?
Yeah, I'm a passenger. I'm not driving,
Okay.
so no worries.
I was getting worried there, but would you like to ask your question? Thank you for your patience.
That's no problem. Okay, I know Bruce mentioned a record keeping system. Would a bank statement qualify as part of a record keeping system, or are we talking about two different items?
Good question, Philip. No, that does constitute good record keeping, is keeping up with reconciling the bank account. But you might want to also have a spreadsheet. I don't know if you're spreadsheet savvy or not, but a spreadsheet for all other items that basically go outside of the checking account. Just know that you've got your budget, you know what is probably going to be spent throughout the year. Just keep good tabs. As long as you are aware of what needs to be done, as long as you keep that checking account in good standing and you have it reconciled and you know you've got the money in the budget, you just need to keep some type of records, whether it be a spreadsheet or even possibly even a Word document, knowing what needs to be done. That it's a good record keeping is saying that if the club president comes to you and says, how much money do we have in the budget, or how much money do we have in the checking account, and are we able to satisfy all the items that we had budgeted for at the beginning of the year, you can confidently say, if you have a good record keeping system, you can say, yes, we have maybe $50 left in our account above and beyond what we've budgeted for. So that's what I mean by having a good record keeping system. However you want to do it is fine, but obviously that bank account reconciliation is one of the starting points of having a good record keeping system. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. And I appreciate your time and your answer.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Philip. All right, Maria, would you like to please answer your question? Unmute and ask your question.
She can
Yes,
answer it too if
thank
she
you.
wants.
So I'm calling from Ontario, Canada, and it caught my attention when Bruce indicated something about taxes. Because I tell you one thing, our club is a corporate club, so we do not pay, or we've never paid for technology or for meeting room rentals, things like that. However, we always ask for a little bit more of money because obviously the exchange rate fluctuates here, right? And we pay in US dollars. Now, over the years, and it's been 13 years, we've built money, and we, in our bank account, we have about $3,000 because, like I said, our expenses are very limited. Now, you got me worried about the situation of taxes. I don't know if every country is different, but our account with the bank is a nonprofit account. I've never paid taxes. So I'm a little now worried that I may have to reach out to our RCA and see if we are liable for being taxed. I don't know, penalized even with the 13 years.
Yep,
So
Maria,
that is my
a corporate club is sometimes it's a different animal altogether, as Becky knows. Exchange rate is an issue. Obviously, if it's a negative or if it's a positive impact on your monies, then that needs to be talked about. But I think that's the importance of, at the beginning of the year, talking about all the items that may be a draw on your account. So you might want to budget for unfavorable exchange rates if that helps you. But I would always make sure that you communicate with your executive committee, your president, saying, hey, here's an issue that I think may affect us. What do we do about it? And if you're a nonprofit, that is a bit of another issue that might affect you as to what you're doing. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
I would just like to know what happens in the US. Do you guys pay taxes over Toastmaster, like clubs? Do they pay taxes?
No, Maria, Toastmasters International handles all that for us. We don't, many of the clubs, as I mentioned earlier, they don't even get a tax mail coming to them because Toastmasters International takes care of that for us. I don't know about you, but that's all taken care of by Toastmasters International. We don't have that issue.
Oh,
Bruce, there
Okay,
was a
so-
form that we used to fill out
Yes.
for the IRS. Do we still do that? That the treasurer
I
has to
haven't
get
been
it?
a club treasurer.
Bruce, there used to be a 1099 form or something like that we had to fill out that said you had X amount of dollars, less than X amount of dollars in your club.
Yes. I've not seen it, but you're exactly right. That if that issue comes up and you receive something from the IRS or from the government saying that you owe taxes, then I would suggest talking to somebody at TI about that issue, and they can probably answer it for you.
Sorry about that. He kicked us
That's
all
okay.
out and brought us back. So,
It wasn't.
and I
It wasn't
reshared
your
the
fault.
link.
It wasn't
I
your
know we
fault.
have very good conversation going, and I'm not discouraging any more questions while we have our time. But if you have a question, please let me know. If not, while we're having these discussions, if you can click on the link and scroll down to the treasurer section to make sure that you fill out the survey, because Toastmasters always appreciates feedback, what we can do better next time. Maybe we'll have to wear hats or something to make it more exciting for the next Toastmaster. I know, like I said, it's not a really exciting subject, but some of us that like numbers, it is really. But anyway, please make sure you click on the link. Bruce.
Thank you very much, Becky. That glitch kind of got me unnerved about what's going on here, but at least we got back to our room and we're able to finish out our time here. Are there any other questions? Becky, do we have any more time, or do we need to close it out altogether?
We have about 5 more minutes, but that, so yeah, I think that they were giving us 5 more minutes just to finish up. So if anybody has another quick question. I know I'm in a corporate club. It's different than the local clubs because I've belonged to a local club when I first joined. And I know that they usually have an additional, but as a corporate club, I know we just usually pay an officer has to pay their dues online directly. So we don't have any slush funds like the local clubs do. I think one of the other things is that there's always talk about, as a member, I can go on and pay my dues directly, but that hasn't happened yet. That usually bubbles up a couple of our meetings that we talk about. So that might be something in the future that your people can pay for their dues directly. Yeah, we're closing in 4 minutes. So that's something in the works, but it's not there yet. But I know as a corporate club, we have our officers pay dues, and so I can queue up my people, probably, queue up the people, have one corporate club. If we have one person paying for several members, you can put them all in and then queue them up for that. You can pay individual members with their credit card or debit card. We find that that's easier than collecting checks nowadays.
Okay, good.